Good afternoon and welcome to this small class around the mind and breathwork. Let me just start sharing my screen so we can start. So, my name is Paulo. Some of you already know me, others don't. I'm a breathwork facilitator from T4 class and accepted the challenge of becoming a mentor of T9 with beautiful Emily, Rita, Cheryl, and Evangelia, plus Anthony, Sasha, Andre, and all the Alchemy of Breath team. So that's the main reason for me being here today, offering this class. The theme, as you easily understand, is huge. So the biggest challenge was to shrink this huge subject into a 45-minute class and do it in the way that it's pleasant for everyone. Some of us really like the techie and deep scientific parts and names, others don't. So I try to blend it to avoid some boredom and sleepiness. So due to time constraints, I give all the info, and at the end, if we have enough time, I'll open the space for some discussion, doubts, and so on. So I thought about facilitating this information because I noticed that some teachers and in some practices, the mind and the brain are referred as something bad, unpleasant, or even trying to suppress it, perhaps making some confusion between concepts like mind, reason, ego, or intellect. And I think it doesn't make a lot of sense at a time when we increasingly look and try to perceive man, the humanity, and the cosmos in a holistic, more interdependent way, in which we move an element here and we bring changes throughout the entire system. We are kind of moving away from what's our best tool and one that allowed us to be at the top of the chain today. So by explaining some rules and concepts about the mind, my proposal is to eliminate borders between body and mind. When talking about the brain, we are actually talking about the whole body and vice versa. It is an all integrated system where the brain appears only as the CEO of a company. It's dependent on all other structures. It's like the cockpit of an airplane where the systems are regulated and at the same time dependent on them. We are not only considering the intellect, but the brain-body universe set. The prime example that the whole is more than the sum of the parts. The brain is the main organ and the center of the nervous system in all vertebrate animals and in many invertebrates. So the human brain contains about 86 billion neurons connected by more than 1,000 synaptic connections each. From a philosophical point of view, it can be said that the most important function of the brain is to serve as the underlying physical structure of the mind. From a biological point of view, however, the most important function of the brain is that of generating behaviors that promote the welfare of an animal. The brain controls behavior either by activating muscles or by causing the secretion of chemicals such as hormones. Mind is the state of consciousness or subconsciousness that enables the expression of human nature. Mind is a concept widely used to describe the higher functions of the human brain related to cognition and behavior, particularly those functions which make human beings conscious, such as interpretation, desires, temperament, imagination, language, senses, although the most unconscious qualities such as thought, reason, memory are linked. Intuition, intelligence, dream, feeling, ego, and superego. It's amazing how this organ, weighing less than 1,001.5 kilograms, its strange consistency, it looks like firm gelatin, and its wrinkled appearance, like deep valleys carved into a swollen landscape, is at odds with the mental process it creates. Our thoughts, our dreams, our memories and experiences arises from this strange neural matter. Who we are is found within their complex electrochemical pulse discharge patterns. When that activity stops, so do we. When the activity has its character altered either by an injury or by the use of drugs, our character also changes. Unlike any other part of the body, if a small piece of the brain is damaged, you are likely to change radically as well. So this raises the issue of being born with an unfinished brain, and that disadvantage in the beginning, but the advantage as well that this presents for our species. When we are born, we are totally dependent from our parents or tutors. Without that kind of care, we don't survive. Other mammals and animals do survive without that care. On the other hand, this primes our brain to change and adaptation. This adaptability that this gave to our species and its reflexes in our life and our nomad characteristic is of utter importance. This is the reason why we are able to adapt so easily to new forms of life, environment, practices, cultures, why we love to travel, and the other animals and mammals not that quite. Our brain's secret has to do with how cells are connected. It is seen that synapses, the connections between the cells, are greater at 2 years old in relation to adulthood. They reach 2 million per second, such are the news and interactions. As they grow, they reduce, focusing on those that are most used. The more we repeat an action or behavior, the more pronounced the neural connection becomes. So our brain learns by repetition. We all remember how many times we repeated the multiplication table until we decorated it, as we have so often prepared for school tests. How difficult it was the first driving lessons, remember? So first gear, left foot full down, and then right hand towards you and up. Now you need to gently release the left leg and start pressing the right. Wow, what a confusion. But, well, however, after we repeat it until exhaustion, we now do it automatically and at the same time as many other things, like talking to our kids in the backseat, on the phone, thinking on our beloved ones. With repetition, what was strange and difficult in the beginning becomes normal and natural in us. It is for this reason that the practical component in this Alchemy of Breath Therapist course is super important and must be highly valued. During adolescence, the brain undergoes a considerable transformation, and even as an adult, it continues, not developing, but to mold itself to experiences. Our brain is a relentless mutant that constantly rewrites its circuits, replicating our neural networks with the uniqueness of our experiences. As they are always changing, our identity is a moving target, never reaching an end. So we move on to divide our brain as our evolution as a species and individually. We can see our 3 brains with their location and functions. The reptilian complex for survival and reproduction, the living system or mammalian brain for emotions, empathy, parental, and the neocortex, the called human brain for logic and abstract thought. The proposal is to consider the resident of instincts in the reptilian brain, address of the emotions in the limbic brain, and reason thinking in the prefrontal cortex, safeguarding simplicity. It's during our growth and in the first 5 years that we learn the most, and hence the increase in synapses seen on the slide behind. We learn without a filter, meaning we absorb everything our parents, teachers, siblings, friends, and television teaches us as being true. And here the biggest concern is still how to survive on the planet. This is the main function of our brain, to keep us alive on the planet. And it does this by protecting us from danger and moving us toward pleasure. Here the suggestion is for us to consider the mind as our best friend. We learn non-verbal language, then verbal, to regulate our basic functions, to eat with instruments, to crawl, to walk. We are not aware of how much we learn at that time, whether on an emotional or cognitive level. Everything goes directly and unfiltered to our subconscious. This is where we begin to build the foundations of our personality and character. If we think of the brain as a computer, what we learn and download from our parents, guardians, school, and culture to which we belong will be the programs and the operating system. Our emotional structure, if we have enough attention, if our desires are satisfied, adversity, what to do to gather meaning and importance, our belief system, the laws and bases with which we face the world outside us, if it's friendly or not. This process continues through adolescence and into adulthood, being transformed and influenced by our experience, interactions, always taking into account that is our best friend, wants the best and protects us. If we are scolded, we learn not to throw tantrums, the brain prevents us from repeating. If we are made fun of in the school play, we gain an aversion to public speaking, the mind takes care of that. If we suffer a great heartbreak of love, we think we are not worthy of such. It will distract us to other matters. Well, nowadays we know that is this subconscious that regulates 95% of our choices and lives. The 5% of the conscious mind requires a lot of effort, willpower, and concentration, and it's easily supplanted by the subconscious. This is because the conscious mind is the mind of choice, and the subconscious mind, the mind of our preference. In case of conflict, we'll almost always win what we prefer. The speed difference in its operation is astronomical, 30 to 40,000 times faster. About comparisons, it would take 4 years for the conscious mind to do what the subconscious do in only 10 minutes. So the conscious mind, we are using it right now to learn and observe, imagine and think, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. All the other part is the subconscious, and we are using it right now as well. We just don't need to have conscious awareness of that. Highly complex processes of our body are regulated by that part of the brain. Our blood pressure, body temperature, breathing rhythm, digestion. Well, I finished lunch a while ago, and I don't have to think, Paulo, now you must segregate your chemo. And after a while, Paulo, now segregate your kilo. This is not an auto-function or autopilot. Our CEO, our cockpit, is regulating all that. It's as well our memory fault, and what we learn with the conscious mind after being repeated and integrated transfers to the subconscious, freeing space to learn and acquire new abilities in a kind of automation machine. All of these works together, one part influencing the other, including our body and our environment. A good example of the mind influencing a good example of the body influencing the mind is when we have an headache or a bellyache. We're not in a mood for parties or late night discos. About the mind influencing the body, I find it more difficult for people to understand. So I'd like you to play a game with me, okay? So can you please stand up? If you please can stand up, yeah. Let me just see if you can all see me. Okay, and standing up, I want you to raise your arm to the front. So, and like this, I want you with your feet to the front, with your arm like this, I just want you to turn your torso back and see where your index finger goes. So just like this, very simple, and memorize the position where your finger touches. And now I want you to close your eyes. And closing your eyes, I want you to imagine we are going to repeat this exercise, but I want you to imagine that the next time you'll do it, your finger will go between 20 to 30% further ahead. So make this clear image of yourself turning your torso again, and your index finger will reach a distance that will be 20 to 30% further. Imagine all the muscles, all the joints, the bones, your body doing that kind of work, stretching and to go further ahead. So let's now repeat the exercise. Let's put our arm pointing to the front of us as well. And now we will do the same exercise and see, where did your finger reach? Did it work for you? We can all sit down. So, this is an example of our mind influencing our body. You can all keep seated now, but I want you now to close your eyes. Can you please close your eyes and let's make a small meditation. I will give you another example. And for now, I want you to think in a lemon. Think about a lemon, have that visual image in your mind. The lemon, you are holding a lemon. You can feel the cold lemon in your hands. You can feel the texture of the lemon, and you bring your hand to your nose and what a nice smell. You can taste the smell of the lemon. There's not anything else in the world, in Mother Earth, with this kind of smell of the lemon, so characteristic, so lemon. And now I want you to imagine that you are taking a knife and you cut the lemon in half. And when you cut the lemon in half, the smell now gets stronger, so much stronger, so juicy. And now you are picking up off of that lemon and you put it in your mouth and you are sucking the lemon, chewing the lemon, sucking and chewing. And by now, you must be producing a little bit more saliva than you were about some minutes ago. Okay, you can open your eyes again. So, you know, Roger Bannister in 1954 broke the record of running a mile below 4 minutes. The belief was that it was impossible for the human being to do that. It took months visualizing the track, imagining himself running all the tweaks and turns, crossing the end zone before the clock turns 4 minutes, and he did it. He finally did it. Nowadays, hundreds of thousands of runners can do it. So what changed? The belief changed. This is mind influencing body. From here, we come to the conclusion of how important is the conversation we have with ourselves and of our thoughts. For an example, look, if you live in a building and you wake up in the morning and you open your window, you look outside and it's a horrible winter day, it's raining, and if you're all grumpy, you know, saying, oh, I hate winter days, oh, I don't like the winter, I don't like the rain, oh, it's all grumpy, going to have a shower, and then you think for yourself, ooh, so my commuting will be horrible today. Lots of people bumping with cars. I will be late for work. My boss, that stupid guy, he's going to make a ass out of me. So this is one kind of attitude. And your neighbor wakes up, he opens the window as well, but he thinks, it's raining a lot today. Okay, I'm a sunny guy, I prefer the sun, but look, it's water, it's rain, it's good. It's good for the nature, for the plants and for the trees. So, well, better if I take my shower at the end of the day because the commuting is going to be a little bit harder today. So I'm just going to take my breakfast and I will leave now for my job so I won't get late and my boss don't piss me out. So these two persons are going to have two completely different days. So it's a bad day anyway, but you know, it's like children, you know, when children wake up, if it's raining, they put a pair of boots and they just jump into the water or to the snow, okay? So the idea here is our thoughts or ideas creates a physical reaction. In adulthood, all starts with a thought, which creates an emotion, which gives rise to an action, which when repeated becomes a behavior. And if we repeat that behavior many times, it even becomes a personality trait. And what is expected tends to happen. The brain and nervous system respond to mental images, whether real or imagined, as we saw with those small games. And the mind cannot support as well opposing beliefs, happy, unhappy, honest, dishonest, health, illness at the same time. This is so powerful and true that today we have the concepts of placebo and nocebo. There is not a single drug that is available on the market today without undergoing rigorous tests related to the concept of placebo. Even the scientific community today assumes that cures are between 30 to 60% related to the expectation that we create regarding the disease and the drugs and treatments. However, the brain, the mind, the tool is ours, and we are responsible for its use. Can we individually step up to a self-responsible attitude? Self-responsibility meaning the concept where we are responsible for our lives, that no matter how good or how bad I am right now, I have a great deal of responsibility in that. Of course, some things happen without our responsibility, like wars, like COVID-19, things made to us during childhood and so on. But I tend to think those are rare for the majority amount of people in a victim stand, blaming everything and everyone for their lives. The parents, the neighbors, the boss, the system, the government. If so, and if you agree with me, we will have to be responsible not only for our body, but also for our mind, paying attention not only to what we eat physically, but also psychologically. Television, programs, courses, books, thoughts, our inner or self-talk, and so on. This accountability must be done at the conscious and subconscious level, as the mind will always do what it thinks we want it to do. We have to be very clear, direct, and detailed to avoid mistakes. Otherwise, the intention may be good, but the end result may fail. If I tell the lady that normally cleans my house, if I only tell her, clean the house, I will lose lots of papers that I have here in my office because she doesn't know what to do with it. Or if I go to a barber shop and I tell them, cut my hair, it's not going to be a good end result, okay? So this specificity is important because our subconscious is not endowed with reason. It locks on everything we give, current or not, real or not. Remember the programs we download without filters in our childhood? Education, acculturation given by our parents, teachers, colleagues, with the best of intentions, but which they learn from our grandparents and great-grandparents. Well, we no longer have our first phone, television, or clothes, but we continue to run programs from our ancestors that are super outdated. Don't forget, it protects us from pain, moves us towards pleasure, and does what she thinks we want him to do. It is therefore important to be positive, absolutely clear, focusing on what we want instead of what we don't want. The mind doesn't understand the negative. No, never are neutral words for the subconscious mind. I don't feel tired. I am not sleepy. The mind only focuses on the descriptive words of the sentence as tired and sleepy. Look, if I tell you, don't think about the pink elephant, you can't help thinking about a pink elephant, which doesn't even exist in the animal world. We must use very descriptive words because the mind responds to words that are very symbolic, with the power to form an image. I am centered and calm as a tree. My roots are deep and healthy. I am the ideal person for this type of work. My good energy embraces everyone else. Words have the power to change our biochemistry. Exceptional, fantastic, excellent, phenomenal, superb, dynamic, wonderful, or maybe love, tenderness, kindness, emotional. Another trick is use the present tense. The subconscious mind works only in the present. Pay close attention to the use of my and mine words. My problem, my situation, my trauma. The mind begins to accept this as ours. If we don't want it, don't call it ours. It is much easier for the mind to change or release things that it understands that we don't want, but if we constantly call them mine, it will be very confused. If we choose to live from these premises, assuming the mind is our best friend, cooperating with her, teaching her what we truly want and how, there is a huge transformation. I would risk saying that everything changes. It starts by changing us, but it is impossible to contain it only in ourselves. Our family, friends, and customers will notice the difference and the transformation. Energy is impossible to contain. And if we use these techniques in our sessions individually or in groups, the results are phenomenal. The space becomes safe, the environment conducive to liberation, the message passes, empowerment is significant, and people reach different, palpable, and effective levels. Coming back for more and more sessions. We know that our brain can be measured electronically in brain waves, alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, and that each one represents different states. We also know that during a conscious connected breath session, our brain goes through several of these states with wording and the way we communicate with our breathers being particularly relevant. The very intention with which we prepare the space for our session, with which we look to our breathers and address them in an angeling action, is a mental process which must be aligned with our body, with our core and heart, but also in a reptilian, limbic, and prefrontal union, according to quantum physics and many contemporary scientists. Attention and intention channels energy. And energy is the movement from possibility to actuality. We know that it is the connection between our outer and inner world, the bridge with the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. When we converge the consciousness with breathing, it promotes both the reinforcement and the creation of neural connections. It is very important to be aware of conscious and pay close attention to intention. This practice has a lot of influence in neuroplasticity, the influence of our experience on how neurons communicate with each other, and on strengthening their connections, providing new ones, and so on. We work hard in our outer world, and the breath allows us to work on our inner world, our relationships, happiness, connectivity, and in an interconnected way with the universe. So being the mind our ally, we can instruct it to an attitude of greater openness, passivity, listening to our body, to observe which feelings and emotions comes out, to accept everything, the good and the bad, denying nothing, but integrating. We know that this therapeutically has enormous benefits in terms of trauma as a way of bringing the person to the present moment and dealing safely with the experience, exploring the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Well, we can inform the mind that I will knock on the door of your most unconscious part, asking you to give me or say something that I don't know, but I need or can be useful at this point in my life. Speaking of the present moment, can I ask you to watch just a small video? I need to play it like this. Bear with me just a second. I hope the sound is okay for you.
Can't hear the sound. Paulo, sorry, but the sound is not on. They share computer sound. If you could just try activating that.
Yeah, it's just music.
And if you could just turn it to full screen mode just for the video, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think so.
That's okay.
Yeah. After we become aware of the breath, we can give it an intention. We can give it an emotion. Fill it with love, wisdom, joy, Spread it throughout the body and encourage these suggestions moving from mere observation and curiosity to lead away or induction, or to inhale love and exhale the fear of some more troubled situation or experience. Breathing has a direct influence on the brain's magnetic field, and with coherent breathing, the brain emits the already mentioned brain frequencies 10 times more potent. With the intention, it can also be stimulated and directed. Well, we know from Alchemy meditation that breathing promotes this conscious-subconscious connection, the contact with our cellular, synesthetic, emotional intelligence, instincts, and intuitions. And why not invite our breathers to look at the breath as a way of accessing the possibility plane of the universe and creation? And conscious breathing is closely linked to the reptilian and limbic brain, while conscious breathing activates the prefrontal cortex, creating a bridge and coherence between them. At the most important physiological process for maintaining life, breathing has an influence on our entire body, and we know that different patterns give different results. Different patterns are characteristic of different feelings and emotions. The way we breathe when we are happy or relaxed is different from when we're anxious, stressed, or ashamed. Well, reversing the process has proven to work too. If we want to stimulate a specific emotion, I can use the correspondent breathing technique and in a matter of seconds, influence my brain to segregate the right chemicals and quantities of that emotion. It has been widely used in high competition sports for focus, creativity. These as therapists can help us a lot in choosing the respiratory work we intend to do or that best suits our client. In the work developed by the Northwestern University and published in the Journal of Neuroscience, it was proved that the rhythm with which we inhale and exhale air influences the electrical activity in the brain and acts directly on the limbic system responsible for emotional judgments and memory. Neuroscience and subsequently behavioral research confirmed the hypothesis that cognitive functions such as fear and memory are affected by the way you breathe. We can offer our breathers varied techniques with reflexes in so many areas that I don't have enough time to bring them all. I'll highlight these 5 science-based reasons for paying more attention to the breath. One of them is managing stress. I think this is the most direct application of controlled breathing and the one we hear about most. So controlled breathing may be the most potent tool we have to prevent our brain from keeping us in a state of stress and prevent our brains from damage caused by high stress levels. The other one, managing anxiety, well, it's linked to the stimulation of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine that catalyzes increased focus and calmness. Well, another direct benefit of this acetylcholine is a decrease in feelings of anxiety. And stimulating the vagus nerve may also play a role in treating depression, even in people who are resistant to antidepressant medications. Lowering the blood pressure and heart rate. Well, the research suggests that over time, using controlled breathing can lower blood pressure and heart rate, can help prevent stroke and lower risk of cerebral aneurysm. It sparks brain growth as well. It's been proved that controlled breathing, when we use it to facilitate meditation, the result can be in an actual increase in the brain size. Specifically, the brain experiences growth in areas associated with attention and processing of sensory input. And finally, changing gene expressions. It was another unexpected research finding is that controlled breathing can alter the expression of genes involved in immune function, energy metabolism, and insulin secretion. Well, I could be here for the rest of the day exploring this magnificent relationship. Hours and hours to come, but I'm running out of time. and I don't want Emily to be angry with me. So for that reason, I would like to end by suggesting that we accept everything, the good and the bad, the pleasant and unpleasant parts, ignoring nothing, rejecting nothing, not even our wonderful mind. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Paulo. It's such an important exploration as we are going inside into our own inner realms, and also as we're working with other people. So important. So thank you. That was so clear. So clear and well. Yeah. When you were describing that change of thought, I was imagining a cloud, a person walking out the door with a cloud around their head, and that literally it was just changing the thought to then turn into a sun, so that the sun's over the head. So they're walking down the street with the sun over the head instead of the cloud over the head.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing how that, awesome.
Yeah.
And what a great way to go into a breath work is to see the contents of your mind right now, and what do you wish for? What thoughts are helping you, and which ones may not be serving.
Yeah. Yeah, and today we will have 2 wonderful breathworks for start. Wow, it's going to be amazing. So, will you be in the cockpit, Emily, making the rooms for us? So today,
I'll be in the cockpit,
yeah.
Paulo. And so I'm going to create the breakout rooms, and Paulo is going to introduce the facilitators.
Well, today we have Anne Udin. Wow, and she's amazing. And well, and the theme for breathwork today, it's coming home. And I think this is going to be great. Sasha will be leading Anne's breathwork. Emily will tell which room will be for Anne. And then on the other room, I will be leading the breath of Anna Cornell. Wow. The girl with the most beautiful haircut that I've ever saw. It's Anne. And the theme for Anna breathwork will be surrender to the abyss. And I'm just crazy about this theme because it really inspires me.